Okay, so here we have the chunk of horseradish. You don't need too much. In Polish, we call them pickles with little salt. So mało solne. My name is Justina and welcome back to my channel. I'm here with my dad, Roman.
Hello.
Who is Polish. And today we're going to be showing you how to make Polish dill pickles. In Polish we call them pickles with little salt. So mało solne ogórki kiszone. Yeah, mało solne ogórki.
Yeah, with a lot of salt in it.
Less salt. Less salt. Well, it turns out to be quite a lot.
You will see.
So we have a giant 5-liter jar, but you can use smaller jars, whatever you have on hand. We have pickles, about 2 kilos. Cucumbers.
They're cucumbers now.
These are cucumbers for now, and they're little ones that you can buy. We also have garlic, shun, which is horseradish leaves, and dill. Yeah, anything else in here?
No, that's everything.
Anything else you need to add to the jar?
Water,
which we have, and we're going to be cooking, and salt.
Salt, yeah. So we need to put the salt into the water and cook the water.
And that's
the secret.
Low sodium pickles are awesome because you make them in 5 minutes, and you can eat them within like the whole fermentation process. So from the very beginning, they're very, very crisp, and then the longer they sit in the water, the more pickly they become.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, so you wash the pickles very thoroughly, and a tip from my dad's grandmother is to cut off the ends just a little bit, and then the cucumbers become pickles a little bit faster. So that's just a little bit of a fun fact for you. But you can leave them like this, it's just they won't pickle as fast as if you cut the ends off. Yeah?
Yes.
Perfect.
Appalachian sunrise meets my skin. Even with my eyes still closed, I can feel it coming in. Golden, golden, I'll follow only golden, golden.
Okay, so here we have the chunk of horseradish. You don't need too much, especially since if you have horseradish leaves. Horseradish leaves might be difficult to get in North America because you can buy, in Poland, these are like ready bundles that you can just buy in any grocery store. But my husband from Florida, who loves Publix, says that it's definitely in Publix. So if you're from that area, that's good to know. But you can just use a bigger chunk of horseradish if you don't have the horseradish leaves. And then if you like the taste of dill, you can add more dill, less dill. Yes. If you really like garlic, you can add more garlic, less garlic. So you have to sort of play around with the recipe to get the taste that you like. All right, so my dad here has the water. We just turned the water on. It has to come to a boil, and that's kind of the secret, my dad was saying.
Add the hot water to the cucumbers. To
make them pickled faster. The water doesn't have to be boiling, but after the boiling point, wait 3-4 minutes, and then you pour the salted water over the cucumbers. I keep calling them pickles because they're little. And then you add about 5, 6, 7 tablespoons into about 2 liters of water. And
that's the amount of water depends on the
size of the jar.
The size of the jar.
Jars,
depending. Whatever you want to use.
Yeah, and if you prefer like a more salty pickle, then add more salt. If you prefer less sodium, then add less salt. That's the key to cooking with my family in Poland. They just do everything. They're like, oh, this much. And then you're like, how do I do that at home? I don't know, this much. So that's the key. Just add this much salt, which is about 6-7 tablespoons of salt for about 2 liters. So while you're waiting for the water to boil, you can get your pickle jar ready. And what my dad is doing here is he's just taking bits of dill, bits of the horseradish leaves and garlic, and just layering it at the bottom. Then he does a layer of cucumbers, then another layer of the dill, horseradish, and garlic, etc., etc. Just a fun fact, you don't have to squeeze in the cucumbers. They can be loose, but if you just have more little cucumbers, then you can also feel free to squeeze them into the jar. But there is no sort of rule of thumb here. So you just sort of layer it as you see fit, and just put in like one layer of cucumbers between the layers of spices. My dad also cuts the garlic in half. It just makes the garlic more flavorful. So that's another sort of tip for you, is everything else you can sort of bend and stuff into the jar, but do cut the garlic once it's peeled in half.
Mount Laurel high fives for miles in spring. Rainbow trout and hummingbird wing. Golden, I'll follow only golden. Golden, golden things. Gold hair, gold rings, gold leaves, gold anything, golden. I'll follow only golden.
So while we're waiting for the water to cool off after it's begun boiling, my dad said something really interesting about his mom, so my grandma.
It's my mom added to the jar on the end of the process, preparing the cucumbers. She was adding the piece of the loaf of bread.
Like a slice of bread, but like dark rye bread, very dark rye
very
bread.
heavy bread. And that's what she said is speeding up the process, so I can eat the pickles in 15 minutes or so.
So it's
Well,
just,
maybe not.
in Poland, it's like as fast as you can get the pickles out, the better. But we also know you mentioned that someone adds grape leaves to it.
The people adding the different stuff as well, like the grape leaves and cherries.
Cherry leaves, but just the leaves from the
Yeah.
cherries.
So the same to get the different flavor
Yeah.
of the pickles.
But we're very traditional here. We don't add any of that
Never try
stuff.
it, but you never know.
Yeah.
One day. Who knows?
If you guys have ever eaten any like homemade pickles with different additives, feel free to comment below and let us know what works for you and your family, because I'm sure everyone is pickling at home.
I will try.
Everyone.
One day we'll try the wine instead of the leaves and
I
see
like
what
it.
happens.
I like it. So once your water is cooled off a bit, what you can do is my dad just ladles in the salt water into the jar so that you don't shock the jar with too much heat at once so that it doesn't break, the glass doesn't break. So that's all he does. He just slowly sort of ladles in the hot water. Then you wait 2-3 hours or one day ideally. What we do in my family is we test the pickles every 2 hours or so to see when it's like the perfect amount of pickled, and we all have different variations that we just absolutely adore. So a hot tip from my mom, when it comes to the pickling process, if you are satisfied with how pickled your pickles are, so like if you want to stop the fermentation process, so you want them not more pickled essentially, you just have to take all the items out, so all the dill, garlic, etc. out, but leave the water and just put it in the fridge. And you can put it in a smaller jar or Tupperware container or whatever, but just make sure that they're covered in water so that they don't
This water.
yeah, this like salty water already, but put it in the fridge, and that sort of stops the fermentation process, so your pickles aren't as pickled. This is the art of pickling Polish dill pickles. It's an art form here in Poland, I gotta tell you. So with once you've eaten all of your pickles, which they go very, very quickly. So one giant jar like this, normally in my household goes within 2-3 days, but you're able to use the pickle juice, pickle water again, just add fresh tiny pickles here, tiny cucumbers. So you're able to add them 2 or 3 times, or well-known Polish hangover cure is to drink pickle juice the morning that you have a hangover. So there you go, a little fun fact for you. So guys, here's the pickle on the inside. As you can tell, it's been 2 hours. I unfortunately have to leave the pickle jar and go home. So this is as fermented as you're gonna see it for now, until I get home and I make some myself at home. But you can see that the pickling process has begun. These are, in my opinion, the best in the evening after like 6 to 8 hours of fermentation, and then the next day. Then after that, for me, it's too pickled. So I like them sort of still cucumbery, just a little bit pickled. They're delicious. I really recommend these. Let me know if you're gonna try this recipe. Let me know, tag me on Instagram or whatnot, because that's always motivational for me. I want to thank my dad for his awesome family recipe that's been passed down from generations to generations. My mom for her hot tip on how to stop the pickling process. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. For my parents, give them thumbs up. If you have any comments, feel free to comment below. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.